Get ready for a not too optimistic and a bummer episode of Arkansas basketball recap as Arkansas falls to the Vanderbilt Commodores by a score 97. Yeah, 97 to 84. We're here to break it down, and there's not a lot of great things to say about this game. I'll get the positive thing out of the way. It's not really a positive thing, but it's the thing that makes you that you can hang on to a little bit of hope. Is the guys scored 84 points, which is enough to win, and still played hard and were gritty at times, but not in the second half.
Yeah, it's obviously not worst case scenario because there's a version of this game where maybe, I don't know, someone gets hurt or something, so you're even more bummed out. But it was pretty bad as far as it's not that I didn't see a scenario where we lose, but I thought we would lose with Vanderbilt playing a really good zone defense and us shooting poorly and just losing a sort of a really ugly, low-scoring game. I did not see a version where we give up 63 points and a half.
No.
To a team that's 8-8.
No.
Because like I said, all the other games, and honestly, I actually didn't see how it ended, but the LSU Alabama score at halftime, you're looking at it and going, man, we lost to LSU, and they scored like 23 points in the whole half of that game, and they were losing by like 30. And, it makes you feel good, I guess, about only losing to Alabama by 10, but doesn't make you feel good about losing to LSU. And every loss up until this point, you've been able to say, well, we've lost some good players. We're struggling to figure out how we're going to move forward this season, and we're playing really good competition. This game, there's no real excuses. Vanderbilt's not a terrible team, but their record just says they're not a great team. They're an okay team.
Yeah, they've lost a bunch of really close games. This wasn't the game you wanted them to learn how to finish. They played some really good teams and lost by single digits. But the thing that was the problem with this game was, and Muss said this in the post game. He said this after the last game, is that they are a team that we know was struggling offensively because they couldn't hit perimeter shots. And that's a problem to solve. And that's a big problem to have. What you didn't want was the team defense to really start collapsing. And that's what's been happening. Arkansas is a team with a bunch of really good individual defenders, really good. But the team defense was actually, especially the second half, really the second half of this game, it wasn't good. They gave up guy just going hard left, straight line drives to the basket over and over and over again.
Yeah, they were making very, I don't know what you say other than just like beginner mistakes from what I understand about defense is, everybody knows the 45-degree angles to the basket are the best driving lanes as far as giving you an advantageous angle to perform your basket no matter what you're shooting. That's the optimal angle, and you try to get people to not go there. You try to get them to. You try not to give up the baseline. You try not to give up the drive to the block, and it was like we were playing them to the wrong side of their hips, and instead of driving them to the middle where the help defense is better and the caliber of shot is more difficult, we were finding ourselves on angling them right towards the most optimal and advantageous spot for an offensive player to go. And it was everybody. It was Black was doing that, and Walsh was giving up drives like that, and they were literally just drives from the three-point line. They'd get them on their hip, and they just drive, and instead of, we were turned the wrong direction. We were not turning them into the center where our big man can help. We were just letting them go to the angle that they wanted, where there's no help, and you can't get to their offhand, and their offhand is at the basket, both the left hand and the right hand drives. And I do think, I said this a little bit last time, and it is a little bit negative. Yeah. I think we are. You can look at Arkansas, and because Musselman is a defensive-minded coach and an effort-minded coach, and because these guys' bodies and athleticism are so, and their mentality, they're all gritty, hard-nosed defenders. And we've seen at times in every game these guys play really, really good individual on-the-ball defense. But I don't think that they're actually so you can get. They can create the illusion that you have a great, just by looking at it, like, oh, we're a great defensive team. That's what we do. We're not that good offensively. We're okay. We have some tools, but what we hang our hat on is defense. If you look at the scores this year, they do not indicate a great defensive team. They indicate a good defensive team.
Yeah.
And a defensive team. Maybe okay is too, not strong enough. They're solid, but dude, good defensive teams once in a while give up 70 and 80 points. They never give up 90. Good teams don't give up. Good defensive teams don't give up 90 points. But they end up a lot of their games, especially to inferior competition, where those teams are like bogged down in the 40s and 50s. I don't know what the average score of a college game is if you gather them all up, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's 68 points a game or something like that. We're giving up 75 points almost every game.
Yeah, the thing is that Arkansas is a team with a bunch of good defenders, and at times they're a very good defensive team. Like when that comes together, but they're not playing elite defense now as a team.
They are individually. At times, Devo has played, we've seen him and Walsh and Black and even Council. At times, their individual on-the-ball effort is great.
Mm-hmm.
But that's different than team defense.
Yep.
And sometimes our help isn't good. Sometimes our rotation isn't good. And like I said, it's not like I'm a basketball guru. I can't explain all of the reasons why, but I can look at the score at the end of the game and go, you let that team score 80 points. That's not great defense.
Yeah. The problem is that you're like, oh, well, what's it? Why? Okay, so they're a good defensive team, but not a great defensive team. Well, the problem is that they're not a good offensive team, and so they need to be a great defensive team. That's what you were hanging your hat on. That's what you were having your hope solidified in this fact that they were going to be a great defensive team, but they haven't been. When the I think Musselman has made this point, as people are like, what's going on with the defense? And one of the things he says is, well, we're not playing good defense, one, and the level of competition has gotten a lot better. And I think that's when it became obvious. Like, so the cracks and the inability to play really, really good team defense really showed up when you started playing SEC caliber teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that individual, those individual defenders against lesser teams was enough to look really impressive.
Yeah, like I said, there's not a whole lot you can say about this game that's positive. I'm definitely. I'm not like you don't feel like there's no way we can turn this around or this. Hey, this team's just not as good as we thought they were, and it's over. Musselman can still. Make something happen. This team has tons of talent. They have tons of upside. But it is starting to get to the place where, you're not full-blown jumping on the panic button, but the concern is turning to, like, this is as bad a situation. I think we can say this. I think it's as bad a position that a team's been in since Musselman's been coach.
Musselman said that today in the press conference.
I think that's right. I feel like maybe record-wise, there was a couple other times in his first year that they had more losses and it was a little bit more lopsided. But I don't think our conference record has ever been worse than this. You know, I mean, we like I said, last year we started out 0-3, but now we're worse because we never got, you know, we started to win and just kept winning and got that, immediately went back to, I think we won 3 games in a row and got back to 3-3. We're in a worse place now. We're really in a big hole conference-wise. And I think the biggest negative is there was nothing in this game, at least to me, that indicated they were moving towards a solution to our problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've obviously, I mean, dude, we've been saying this for at least 5 weeks now, ever since the first team kind of threw zone at us. And we're like, man, we got some problems. Muscle figure it out. Muscle figure it out. And it's like, this game gave no indications that there was anything where you're like, ooh, okay, we lost, but you could see where they're doing this or that. This substitution was working. This chemistry was working. In fact, I mean, I was actually personally, I was a little disappointed. I mean, I'd like to know maybe from the individual players. For all I know, maybe those Vanderbilt guys were saying really, really awfully crude things to our players and really saying some inappropriate things about their mothers and sisters or something. But from watching the game, it looked like we came in and sort of we instigated a lot of the chippiness that was happening there, which is okay. But if you ask for that smoke, you've got to be ready to. I mean, everybody knows that in a game. Like, if you're going to start hip checking people, start giving people elbows, start talking smack to people, be prepared for those people to come at you. And Vanderbilt got the better of that battle, and I mean, by a long shot in the second half. Our players looked like they got chippy, and we even got the benefit of being in a lot of those situations. You know, the second man always gets called, and they were the second man in a lot of those situations. And like I said, I can't speak to maybe what things were said that maybe we didn't draw first blood. But as far as the actual physicality of what happened on the court, a lot of those things we sort of drew first blood in the provoking, like Anthony Black sort of stepping over that guy, even though the guy did raise his foot and kind of trip him, and then the shove. And I thought that, I mean, we definitely came out, as far as the adjudication of that from the refs, on the happy side of that. I mean, we had a freaking 7-point play that could have been a 9-point play if we'd made all the free throws. So we actually did some instigating, benefited from it, but then, I mean, they brought it to us in the second half, and you just have to admit, like, our guys did not respond. I mean,
what happened is, that's fine. Like, we looked like we were gonna like get in a rock fight, and that's what it was gonna be. And then, you had their Robbins, their big guy, who was in foul trouble the first half. He came back in, and he was willing to join that fight, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah, he really got them pumped right off the bat in that second half, the first part of that second half, and it just got the whole team jazzed. Yeah. But like I said, I mean,
dude, you can't lose a game where you get to shoot 7 free throws in one possession. I know that. I mean, that's crazy, man. You can't. I mean, there's nothing you can say about the refs in this game. And here's the thing. I mean, I'd like to talk about the offense a little bit, but you just scored 84 points, man. You just got to win that game. I mean, it's enough points. We shot the 3 actually I mean, this is what's wild. I mean, you score 84. If you told me Arkansas is going to score 84 points, they're going to hit 7 threes, and they're going to shoot 49% from the floor, I'd be like, 84 points, 7 threes. 49%. Yeah, we win that game.
Yeah.
But we didn't, as Vanderbilt makes 10 threes. They shoot 55% from the three-point line. So your three-point defense was not great. So they're 10 to 18. And they shoot 52% from the floor. Your defense isn't great if you let a team shoot 50% from the floor as a team for the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously, no one would argue that we played good defense in that
And
second
giving up
half.
63 points and a half.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's not just that. I mean, that's uniquely bad. I mean, I don't know how many teams are going to give up 63 points this season in a half.
Dude, you watch an NBA game, and if a team has 63 points and a half, you're like, that's a high score.
Yeah, they were on. I mean, if they did it again, they'd have 128 points. Like that's an NBA score. And it's the thing is, it's not. Sometimes you see high scores when a team just has a couple of guys that are 3-point shooters, and they all go off on the same time. You know, and it's like this guy has 5 threes, that guy had 3 threes, that guy had 4 threes, and it's like they bury a team. This is not even that. This is worse than that. It's if you look at their stats, they hit some threes, they got a bunch of layups, they got a bunch of mid-range shots, and they shot a ton of free throws.
Yep.
That means you're not protecting the 3-point line, you're not protecting the basket, you're not protecting the paint, and you're fouling. Like you're doing everything wrong on defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, obviously, if you give up 63 points, like I said, I mean, I don't know. You could look up. I'll bet there's a lot of teams that won't give up that many points and a half in several seasons. I mean, that's a ton of points.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of games in college that don't even get close to that. I've seen tons of college games that, I mean, they're boring defensive struggles, but like that end in the 40s. That does happen. You know what I mean? Like even that Kentucky Tennessee game. I mean, I don't know. I think that ended in the 50s. I think.
It had insult to injury. Kentucky climbed out of it.
Yeah, I know.
So that's a bummer too. I see. Kentucky, it was 63 to 56. So Kentucky scored 63 points, which is the same amount of points that Vanderbilt scored in the second half. They scored that many points in the game and won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, it's just too much. So, yeah, I'm pretty concerned. And here's the thing: sometimes there's teams, and you're like, oh, I'm angry with like the way the guys are playing or what the coach is doing. I don't have any of that. I'm like, man, and you can see Muss trying to figure it out in real time. He's starting the Mitchell twins.
Mm-hmm.
Last game he didn't start Council. He started the Mitchell twins. This time he starts the Mitchell twins. Doesn't start Walsh. Hasn't found it yet.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like you can tell from just he started the Mitchell twins, but in the second half he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put Pena in the last 10 minutes for like he's just looking for somebody. He tried Graham for a little bit, seeing if we could get that spark that we did the last game. It's like he's just trying to figure out a formula, and it's scary that like none of it. I mean, there's only so many different things you can do. You know what I mean? And so far, he's tried a lot of different things, and none of them have really worked. Yeah, I mean, I still love our personnel. It's just gonna be, dude. If you can't, it's just gonna be tough if you can't shoot consistently, and then the one time you do kind of score some points, you're not playing good defense.
Yeah, it's so weird because they came out so competitive, and the thing that Musselman was saying, after the game was we just weren't competitive enough. Like we got to be more competitive, and he's right. But that's why it was so weird because we looked so competitive. Like we were taking it personally the first half, and the second half, it's like all that competitive fire was just went away.
Yeah, I wish I knew, because I mean, I like hard-nosed, gritty guys like Kamani Johnson and stuff, and I like guys that are kind of enforcers and stand up for their players. But that initial thing where he shoved that guy coming off that screen, I know that he was hand fighting with Anthony Black a little bit, but dude, that happens all the time. I'd like to know, because if you're in the situation that Arkansas is in, where you're struggling this much, you don't need to give the other team unnecessary fuel. Like, you know what I mean? You're on the road. There's just no, you were playing them even, and actually you were a little bit ahead. And you felt like at the first half, I mean, even though it goes kind of back and forth, 3 points here, 2 points there, you felt like, okay, I think we're better than this team. It just doesn't seem necessary to give that team, especially when they're at home with their crowd, fuel with and maybe if you're the kind of team that is psychologically just mentally strong and you actually thrive off of that thing, then maybe. But it didn't appear that our guys were that way. They don't appear to play better angry. Like
Yeah.
Anthony Black didn't look like him becoming the bad guy, putting on the black hat and having the crowd boo him. And, he sort of rolled his shoulders like after and like I said, I don't mind any of that, but you have to back it up. It didn't look like to me he thrived playing that role. And I don't know. I don't know him, but like looking at him, he looks like a sweet guy. He's always smiling. He looks like a nice guy. I don't feel like that's what he wants to do, is be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go in there and be the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at least this time, it definitely didn't work out. Like, I don't know. I really liked how aggressive he was in the first half, taking the ball to the rack and stuff. But they got fired up, especially on him specifically, the crowd and the players. I mean, they started double teaming him when he had the ball and just playing next. I mean, we always talk about this, like there's defense and then there's end of the game, 30 seconds on the clock, tied game defense. You know what I mean? Like, and they were playing that kind of defense on him the whole second half. And it's just like, it just didn't do him any favors to make the guy that you're guarding hate you and want to just play you like crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I didn't think anyone. I mean, offensively, like Anthony Black scored and Ricky Council scored. I mean, they both scored a lot. The only guy that I think though played a good game all the way through was Devo Davis.
Yeah.
Devo ends up with 17 points, but it wasn't just that. I felt like what Devo did offensively got other people involved, and and I didn't see him getting blown by and stuff on the same level. Maybe it's just because he's one of the older guys. He's been there and he knows what it takes. But that was a bright spot. I thought Devo's play today was he was the best on the team.
Mm-hmm. Probably. Yeah. I mean,
that would be in a horrible game where it fall apart in the second half. I don't know if we've mentioned this. I mean, we were up 10 in the second half, and then in a very short amount of time, we're down 10. There's a 20-point swing that happened
in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. This was not a game that we were like losing the whole game. Like we were winning most of the first half. But Devo, if I have to give a player of the game in a game like this, I think for me it's Devo.
Yeah, I mean that's like winning the ugliest baby contest or something. But yeah, I mean the other thing about that game that I'm still just sort of puzzled about is, and I think this had to do with what I'm talking about with them. The game got in their heads, and once Vanderbilt started to punch them in the face in the second half, it didn't look like it didn't help us be productive playing against a team that was playing angry, and we didn't look like we could meet their aggression. But it looked like we wanted to. There was so many. I'd like to count up the passes that were made once they started, like maybe from minute 15. Once they'd made their run and they took the lead, our 10-point lead was erased. They took the lead and then started to like build on it because it was fast. Like they were up by 6 in a second. And all of a sudden, immediately on offense, our guys, it was like they were pissed, but they didn't have the discipline to calm down and be smart about it. They were playing so much one-on-one basketball. It was Anthony Black, Devo, all of them. There was so few productive passes. It was like whoever brought the ball up got a screen and then charged into 3 guys and shot a fadeaway jump shot or tried to take it to the rack. And then if there was a pass, it was literally just like pass to Council. Now you take it.
Which was weird because they overpassed a couple of times in the first half.
The ball movement was, I agree. Yeah, they overpassed a little bit, but they were moving the ball, which was being productive.
What I mean is that they get the ball in the post and sometimes they come back out and you're like, why? What's happening here?
Yeah.
Like, let's go with that. But here's the issue, though, man. While there were times in the second half where you were like, oh, that's not good offense, the offense wasn't the problem. Like, I mean, like it still was like one of those things where like 84 points, and we still scored
Enough.
more than enough.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't the problem. Like, I mean, I almost don't think it's worth talking about how we could improve on offense in this particular game when you're like, I'll take that offensive performance the rest of the year. Like, I just don't know what happened to the defense in the second half of this game. Like, what was going on?
The only reason I think that's true if you just look at the baseline stats, you could say, well, you scored enough to win. But I mean, if you look at the minutia of the game, part of the reason we scored more than maybe even we haven't been in the last few games is we were giving up so many quick layups and drives.
There's probably more possessions.
There was a lot of possessions in that game. I mean, obviously, so part of it is our offense still was pretty frustrating to watch in that second half for large portions of that game. It's just that there was so many possessions. We still scored quite a few points, but like there was still multiple possessions where in a row where they were building a lead and we needed to score to stop the bleeding. And like I said, it was just no offense whatsoever as far as passing, no movement, not even really anything but a high ball screen from one of the Mitchell twins. It was like a high ball screen and that was it. And I don't know what to do about. Like, I'm not sure if what Muss would say about that if he was like, I mean, they play a free flow offense, so it's like they don't have a lot of set stuff, but it looked different in the second half than it did in the first half.
Yeah.
So, also, we probably should mention that we're in Dan's office. That's what we watched the game together, and we decided this is his setup, so that's why it's weird.
Yeah, and if it sounds weird or anything like that, we'll find out. We don't know yet.
We didn't really have good lighting and stuff, but we just
thought
we'd do it in person. So I wish it was a more happy one, but
I know. Well, I think we can leave it there. That was frustrating. I am concerned. Still believe that if it can be fixed, Muss is the guy to fix it. I don't know if it can be. I hope it can be, and I hope he figures it out. A big part of that fix might be out in L.A. right now, getting his knee massaged or whatever. I don't think that Nick Smith is something that you insert and that fixes your defense, though. So, hey, I don't know if Nick Smith is coming back. If he is coming back in February, let's have that defense fixed before he gets here. Because I do think he can fix a lot of other things. I do think just inserting him fixes a lot of things, but it doesn't fix that.
Yeah, I mean, I still think if our offense, we've got so many talented players that if they could just figure something out on offense, the defense, like I said, I just don't think they play I don't think we are elite defensive team. I think we have elite defensive personnel that could be an elite defensive team.
And that's the thing that gives you a little bit of hope is like, can Muss take elite defensive players and make them play elite team defense? You would think surely he can.
Yeah, and I think he can. And so I think they still could be a team that starts stifling other teams and holding them to 55 points a game and then winning game if they can just figure a little bit of a boost on offense, just figure out some better, and by figure out, I mean just feel out and getting a better flow on offense, pass the ball better. And dude, if Nick Smith could come back, I mean, maybe you could look at the end of the season, who knows? Like Nick Smith could come back and be a hero and we could win 10 games in a row, make the tournament and still go to the Sweet 16 and it could be a freaking amazing season. And all of this is just in the wake of the whole, just like all the other seasons. But it doesn't, just because it's been that way in the past doesn't mean, there's a version of this thing that goes sideways.
Yep.
And this season turns out to be a disappointment, and I'm certainly...
You can only talk about the thing that you just saw. I mean, you can't talk about the thing that might happen. I mean, you can speculate, but you can't break down what hasn't happened yet. This is what's happened, and this is where we're at. You might watch this video in March and be like, "Oh man, you guys were saying that we weren't an elite defensive team. It turns out that we made a Elite Eight run again, and it was all because of how crazy the defense is." That's totally possible. Right now, this game, Arkansas versus Vanderbilt, the defense the second half was horrendous.
And like I said, the good thing about defense is while some of it comes down to personnel, I mean, you can imagine a team that you have where you're like, dude, how do we end up with like one of the shortest and least long teams in the league, and we're just not capable of defending some of these other freaking 7-foot guys or something. But that's not the situation we're in at all. I mean, our bodies are excellent, and we definitely have even the psychological make it. Like, these guys want to play good defense, and if you look at what Kentucky did today, like, dude, I mean, Oscar Sheboy calling them out the game before, where it's like, we're not playing any defense. And he was right. He was just basically turning around in the lane, watching his guys have their man blow by them and make layups. And at the start of that game, I mean, you even called me and were like, yeah, it looks like Tennessee's going to blow out Kentucky, because immediately they gave up a bunch of...
They were down 8-0. Immediately.
And they were layups that they were giving up. And it's like... And somehow Calipari got the way they won that game is with defense. I mean, look at the score. Like, they held dude, Tennessee's good. And they, like I said, their offense is really nice. Like, they passed.
They're also the number 1 rated defensive team in the country right now, I think.
They've got seniors on that team. They've got a lot of experienced guys. They pass the ball really well. They move really well. Rick Barnes is a great coach. But Kentucky came out in their place and played scrappy, hard-nosed defense and was able to win that game. It's like, if they can,
and by the way, with their starting point guard not playing,
if they can do it, we can do it. You know what I mean? Like, our guys can get better, obviously. And I mean, on defense, like, we're not going to give up. We've got to start. I think we've got to start getting, because I think defense is not that it's easier physically. It's more effort, but it's something that you can just do slight little things differently, a little bit better, switch a little bit better, and you can improve your defense quicker than you can improve.
But you can control it. You have more control over it.
Well, more than you can improve a guy's ability to shoot a 3.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't improve. That takes a long time to improve.
That's something you do over the summer.
Yeah, you've got to, like, really work on that. And also, if you're just at this point, like, if you're not a natural shooter, like, it's really going to take some work. I mean, you can do it. Like, look at Al Horford. Like, that guy all of a sudden developed a 3-point shot when he was like freaking 38 years old.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think the defense is something that's more practically able to be shored up. And if with our shooting woes, we're going to have to start holding teams at least below 70, like, to win, because it's hard to imagine us scoring,
84 points.
84 points every game.
Definitely can't get in a game where it's going to take 100 points to win. I know that.
Yeah. So,
well, right on, man. Well, we'll leave it there. It gets no easier as we head to Missouri on Wednesday. So, hey,
maybe this will be our LSU game from last year.
Maybe,
because I remember going into that LSU game. I think we were 0-3 in conference. We're going to LSU, and LSU was good that year. I mean, so far they ended up not being as good as we thought, but I was just like, man, this is a bummer. And we won that game, and then we just kept winning. And I remember that game was close. Like,
and it could be, dude, like, giving up 97 points, giving up 63 points in a half. That might be the thing. I mean, like, Muss might go in there, give those guys the hard word, and maybe that team gets together, and Kamani Johnson and Devo Davis, leadership up, and they might come out and you might see something different, on the defensive end. I think that's how those things happen. Mm-hmm. So, all right.
I mean, I'm definitely to the place now where I'm like, every game is an adventure, because there's no team in the SEC that I don't think we could lose to. You know what I mean? Like,
we couldn't lose to?
Yeah, that we couldn't lose to. Like, if you can give up 63 points and a half to Vanderbilt, and like I said, I'm not trying to disparage Vanderbilt. I mean, they played way better than us today.
That must have been a hell of a halftime speech also, that Stackhouse must have brought it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I give hats off to them. Like, our guys were mouthy, their guys were mouthy. They got juiced up, and we didn't seem to. And I mean, that's part of the home crowd thing too. And that fan base, Vanderbilt has I mean, I'm not trying to talk smack, but Vanderbilt does not have one of the better fan bases.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see like half the crowd there, not half, but like a third of the crowd was Arkansas fans. Like it's not that great of a fan place. We got that fan base juiced up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And credit to them because they were there for their team, and I think it definitely was a difference maker. I think we definitely missed some free throws because we were all stressed out and just agitated. And anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll just keep going over and over. But yeah, I definitely think every game is going to be like, who knows?
Yeah, dude. Well, hopefully the run starts on Wednesday. That's what we're hoping for. But we'll see. We'll see. But until then, I mean, we will be back. Let's see here. Oh, crap. There we go. Yeah, but we'll be back on Wednesday for that game.
All right.
All right. See you, man.